It is so interesting to finally read like a classic book that you're so familiar with the general idea of but never have, and I'm really glad I finally got to this one. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about The Body Snatchers by Jack Finney, better known as Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is adaptations have been called. And this is one of those things that I feel like everybody kind of knows what this is about. It's this small town, or it's been done in certain adaptations in bigger areas too, but where slowly people start like being taken over, and there's no like base sign that they're different. It's something, there have been direct adaptations, there have been references to this in all kinds of shows, and so it's interesting to actually go and actually read the real book. And the real book takes place in a small town. There's a doctor there, and a patient comes in and raises the concerns, and he's kind of skeptical. But then slowly, him and others start to realize that people are legitimately being replaced, potentially by some sort of aliens. And it's very much, there's not like a ton of answers. This is more of just that sort of old school sci-fi thing where we have this idea and we're exploring it. And as with a lot of these, like the older types of sci-fi, I'm really glad that I read this. I did enjoy my experience, but also it didn't land with me necessarily the best in some ways either. The style does feel very dated in a lot of ways, but the big thing isn't even necessarily dated. Although I think I've seen this more in older books. But my main complaint here was there were several times where it's just characters are just like immediately seem to just know what to look for, even if it's not the most obvious thing. And this is, I'm gonna say, I'm not going to specifically try to like not spoil because again, I feel like everybody generally knows what this is about, so I don't find this to be spoilery. And even with me having some complaints, I do recommend, if you've not read this and you're just interested in classic sci-fi at all, give it a shot because it's just one of those books that the experience I think was worth it. Um, but anyway, so the characters, they end up finding somebody who's not fully body snatched yet, and they're just like analyzing, and they just happen to notice some details like, look, they don't have fingerprints, and it's like you just happen to notice that. And so there were a few things like that where it just seems like you're being done, and it's sometimes in like old school detective fiction where they just seem to notice things that don't really make any sense that they would have noticed because the author obviously knows what to look for. So it felt like that at some points. But honestly, I think just again, as an experience, I thought this was so interesting. And the way that it sort of builds the tension where with it also I thought was done well, and kind of just explores the idea of these people, they're kind of stuck. What do you really do? And it captures that, in like the big Hollywood movie, it'd be like, oh, we just call up somebody and it's gonna all be solved somehow. But no, it's like, what would you really do? Who's gonna believe you with something like this happening? And so I think it captured those elements really, really well. So often the like nowadays especially it would be like, oh, all of a sudden the FBI or the CIA would show up and like start blah blah blah. And I've seen adaptations where things are done more kind of like this, but this is more so it's just these people trying to figure out what to do by themselves. The other complaint though, and I don't specifically know, because there is a character in here who is named Jack and who's an author, and so that seems to be the stand-in character for the author. But the main character, the doctor, also is just so often is like the way he thinks, and that character, I'm just like, this is not a very relatable character. And he's just like the doctor, and he like makes a lot of jokes about just wanting to like get some drinks, and like he's dealing with situations with all of this happening, and he just can't help but think about how attracted he is to this female character. And so I did not find the character very relatable, and I feel like some of that again probably didn't age the best, but this is just one of those books that is worth checking out just for the experience. I'm always curious, so if you've got other books like this that are just like interesting to experience. I've read some older ones too, where like I read a couple of Alfred Bester with books, which were just, those were absolutely wild. And again, books I'm probably not ever going to reread, but that were very interesting to experience. And I feel like sometimes you just get that with older sci-fi, where it's like, here we have an idea, we're going to explore it. This one though did do, instead of it just feeling like simply an idea exploration, it did kind of build the drama of this small town a little bit, and so in some really interesting ways. And so I was so conflicted because I had a good time with this. I had things that I liked, and then I had things that just did not land for me at all. And so I ended up kind of in the middle here. But it's just I don't know. It's one of those things. I'd be curious to like this didn't make me eager to like read more from this author, but I'd be curious if you have recommendations for kind of the the older, the classic sci-fi that are just interesting ones, even if it's not going to be like, oh, this book is amazing, just like those ones to experience, if that makes sense. I feel like I've had a lot of books over time too where I'm like, hey, I didn't love this. I'm really glad that I read it though, and that's kind of where this landed for me. So let me know your thoughts if you have read this original book, and or just if you have other recommendations in this vein. I read a lot less sci-fi than I do fantasy, but I am slowly kind of working through some of these types of titles as well. And I've overall, I haven't, I've had more that I've enjoyed the experience, even if I didn't like the book, than I've just straight up hated. Although there's always the possibility for that as well. So let me know in the comments if you have some recommendations there. Would love to hear from you. That's it for this one, though. So make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description, as always, for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizard of the Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether this book, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun and we'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.